Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Tisha, and today we are going to go over a little declutter. Now, I didn't film going through each part of my collection, but I thought I would just give you a little bit of my thoughts on it. And moving forward, I do hope to have at some point something different to film on so that I can actually share that with you, my thought process as I'm choosing. But as of right now, just getting started, I'm filming on my phone, and so I cannot really, it wouldn't be worth it for y'all to see me trying to hold it steady and show you the palette and all of that. I don't think it would be good. So we're gonna do it this way for now. So this is volume 1, I'm calling it. And this is just something I do typically every spring and sometimes in the fall, depending on if I take a good break in buying makeup in the summer. I don't normally do it in the fall, or in the spring, I'll set myself some kind of goal to use up some things. So I will be introducing that in this video, and then we'll just do another video on that because this one will be way too long. So what really prompted this video was I counted up my palettes, and I had 160 palettes, and that is quite a bit, especially since I just started on YouTube. So there's no reason for me to have that much, and it's accumulated over several years. So some of these are older, they may not be the first go around of that palette, but you know, older. And then some of it is that I do subscription boxes. So currently I'm only doing BoxyCharm, but at one point I was doing Pop Sugar, FabFitFun, Ipsy, BoxyCharm, Allure, like a few other ones randomly, not as often as the other ones, but I had done those for a while. So it's easy to accumulate, and even just in the few months so far of this year, I started in January, I've already got like 10 palettes from BoxyCharm. It's just one of those things where it comes in fast and furious. So what really took a hit in my collection this time around, what I'm going to share with you, is palettes. I'm decluttering 32. And then nail polishes, just because there's some brands that I have I don't care for. I actually have a wall behind me over there in the corner, and it's full, and I don't use that many of them. So I decided to go through those a little bit. And then liquid lipsticks for sure, because I don't use them anymore. I really rarely will wear them. Ofra is my favorite brand of liquid lipstick, so I did keep all of those, but for the most part, they ended up in a declutter bag, or I have another bucket I'm going to show you that's called the Final Tour. So that's going to be makeup that I am using only exclusively in that bucket. Every month I'm going to pull some products that will get a lot of use. And then if at the end of the month I'm good, I've used it as much as I want to use it, it's going to be decluttered, not in a full video. Maybe you see it in empties or something. And then if it's something I like, I'm just going to keep it in that bucket. And this bucket of stuff in the Final Tour will never go back into my collection, which means like where I keep my stuff. Like I'm going to leave it out because it doesn't need to go back in there, if that makes sense. So I'll explain that fully more later. But what we're going to go through is the palettes I'm decluttering and kind of maybe why, and then just I'll briefly touch on the other products. But this is just to kind of show you excessive amounts of makeup, but I also really do a good job of rotating my palettes. I pull 4 a week. I use 4 different palettes every week. So, you know, my makeup is getting rotated. I do stick to rules, like every 3 months I switch out mascaras and brows and eye products like that. So if I'm using it every day, it does get quite a bit of use before it goes. So things like that. I don't feel like there's a ton of stuff in here that just sat around not getting used, but I obviously, sort of a collector, just like Bath & Body Works. We don't need as much Bath & Body Works as we have, but we like having that variety. That's kind of how makeup is to me. I love sales. I usually budget for the big sales every year. I just did a few hauls. So those things, also bringing them into my collection, I was bringing things out. I don't have any plans to sell these items, so they're going to just go to friends and family. And then there's some things that are pretty old that need to just go, just because. So I'm just going to jump in and we're just saying goodbye to some of these things. There's certain brands that got hit a little bit harder than others. And so I'm just going to jump right in. So one thing, like I said, that happens to me is that I will get a lot of random palettes in beauty boxes. So this is a beautiful palette. I just decided not to even touch it because I have 1,000, I mean, not 1,000, I have 107 palettes now that have a similar color story. So I would rather pass this on completely brand new to someone that doesn't have that many. Some other ones, some of these ColourPop palettes, I decided I'm just not in love with the color story. I have something else in my collection that makes me happier. So even though that's newer to me, I just don't need it. So this one's pretty, but I just rarely reach for something like that. And I have another palette like this in my collection. And then, like I said, I have some Juvia's Place. I just picked my favorite because these are bright and pigmented, and I do normally go for more of a subtle wash. So I will only use 1 or 2 shades out of these 6. So I decided palettes like that, instead of depotting them, I'm going to pass them along to someone else that will get some use out of them. So those are ones that don't hurt so bad. There are a few in here that were harder, but it was time. So I'll start with those. So I have some Too Faced palettes here, and these are good palettes. So this is the Sweet Peach, and this is just like for my memory too. Like I love just talking about makeup. I have the Chocolate Gold, and these were in its time like some really great palettes. I mean, Too Faced has had inconsistency, but this was one of their best palettes. And I love the neutral palette here, but I mean, it smells good, but I never reach for it. So I'm keeping it just to keep it. And I just think that's kind of silly. Here's the peach one. It's really pretty color story, but I've gotten the use out of it that I'm going to get. So it's time for me to pass those along. This one was a dud. I only liked like 1 shade in here for me, and it was in this pink area. So I just don't need it. And so, like I said, I'm kind of done with Too Faced. I kept my pumpkin palette. And I think I might have a gingerbread palette. But honestly, at one point I had everything. And now I'm just decided that that's something I'm not going to be trying to collect. This was a fun palette. This one's harder for me to get rid of. But again, for me, this one was based on storage. I think it's unique, but it's really hard to store. It takes up a whole shelf where I can usually fit like 6 palettes. So I looked inside and I thought, okay, I love this, but I do have other rainbow palette. So for me, this Urban Decay Elements palette is simply just because this packaging is bulky and big, and I don't reach for it because once I get it put away, it's kind of a pain to get back out. So do you guys have any palettes like that in your collection? I mean, I've kind of always been interested in glam light, but again, where do I store those palettes? I have some really teeny tiny ones here. Like I used to have all of the 5 pans from Dose, and this is one of the last ones to get decluttered. I have one last one in my final tour. So these shades right here, I absolutely loved, but I have berry shades. I have 100. So I'm deciding I'm just done with these, and they're a little bit older, so I've gotten my use. This is kind of stuff that I do all the time. I'll go to Walmart and I just walk by this and pick it up, and it's sealed. And I decided, okay, I know I've had that for a year, completely sealed, it's going. This one was really hard, but it's time. Again, Tarte was another brand, so I have one other Tarte. I'm just gonna pull it right now because I don't wanna make this 100 years long. But it's just a little kind of how I'm decluttering, and if you're interested in decluttering, maybe some thought processes for you to use. But at one point, Tarte was a brand I had a ton of palettes of, and this is really pretty. But it really is a 1 look, maybe 2 looks kind of palette. So once you've made those looks a couple of times, you're really not going to want to reach in. And again, this is pretty, this blush was stunning, but I can only make like 1 look out of this. So just things like that, I'd like to pass on to someone that doesn't have all this makeup and will get some use out of that. Zoeva is a brand that I recently tried, and I love the color story of this one, and I thought about keeping it, but I'm not reaching for them, and I don't know why. I'm hoping that just by decluttering them, I know I have some similar things, that I will, reach for those other palettes a little bit more, because this one just never inspires me, and the looks that I created were just okay. There's a couple more here that are really kind of hard, but I've never reached for this anymore. The Naked Heat. I have the Cherry, and I like the Wild West and the Honey, but this color story I just don't use anymore. And again, I really will be sad if a warm, red eye comes back, but I really stuck to like this shade, and then like the rest of it's untouched. So I'm hoping I can pass this on and someone will get some use out of it. It was a nice palette when it came out, but I think this is not the colors that I wear, so I'm just keeping it to keep it. This is another one that I absolutely loved when it was a big popular palette. It's the Colored Rain Queen of Hearts. And this one's really hard for me to get rid of, but I don't know what it is. I just don't reach for it anymore. When I got it, I absolutely fell in love with it, but I have so much now. It's like, I don't know. I just have to get rid of even some that I really love just to give, you know, some space for me to, even just to justify buying new things. As new things come out, I still want to get it, but I have so much here. So I'd rather pass these on to someone that'll love them, and then I can justify buying something new. And that doesn't really make a lot of sense, I'm sure. But I'm also really trying to be more creative, like brands that I like, making a wish list, waiting for a sale. Those aren't things I did when I started accumulating all of this makeup. It usually just was sneak peeked and I already had a plan to buy it. And I'm doing much better. The amount of makeup I'd bring into my collection from 2017 to 2019 was insane. And then, you know, from here on out, it's still some, but it's definitely some with thought process behind it. Even if it's more than you would have bought, it's something I feel more comfortable with because before there was no thought process. Before it even got to me, I was over it. You know, once it shipped out, I was like onto something else. And now if I wait 2, 3, 6 months and I still want it, that means something to me. This was one that I never ever used. It was the Disney Designer collection. A ColourPop. I have some ColourPop in here because it's time for me to be a little bit more selective with ColourPop. And that is really hard because I was pretty much a collector. I would, even if I didn't love it, once I got it, it stayed in my collection. So I have someone in mind for this palette, and I think they're absolutely going to love it. And that way it's getting some use. This is one I bought just because it was on sale. And I just really want to stop doing that because I have this color story over and over and over. It's really hard to pull this out and come up with something new. It's neutral with like a pop of green and a pop of yellow, and I'm really not reaching for that pop of yellow. So it's not the one that really attracts me. And I bought this because it was on sale and I never use it. So enough of that. So this Ace Beauté Nostalgia palette is just a little too rainbow for me. It's just really bright and it's really pretty, but I'm hoping that the person that gets this just really loves their color because I can only go into this and use like one shade at a time. So it's just too much color for me. And I actually replaced it with a NYX palette that was free. And this was free too because it came in a BoxyCharm, but I decided I wasn't going to keep both. So this is the one that got put in the to-go pile. These are some Bad Habit palettes, and these are replicas of some of the Huda palettes that I never ever tried. But they're pretty, but I don't know. Like I said, I've had them for a while and I'm never reaching for them. So it's time for them to go. This was a Wet n Wild palette, but it's like all sparkle. So if that's your jam, this would be the palette for you, but this is a palette I have to incorporate with another one. And so since that just is too much work for me, I just decided it was time to declutter. I have a couple of BH palettes. These were nice last summer. These were fun to play with when I wasn't going anywhere. This is Sugar Cone, and it's a very nice neutral palette. And then I had Cotton Candy, which is a bright pinks and blues. And it was just fun to play with, but, oh, this is purples and blues and pinks. But I don't really reach for these. So again, these are untouched, really. This one, I know I used the Sugar Cone, and I think I used the sugar shade up here. And I mean, the payoff was really nice. I'm just going to do it again because, like I said, the person that's getting these, they already know me. So, and it's like, it's so pretty, but I'm not wearing that to work. So it's just time for it to go. I think I bought it because it was beautiful, but I also didn't think about where I was going to wear that because 5 days a week, I have to wear a neutral eye look. So 2 days a week, and it would pretty much be on here with y'all. It would be bright, vibrant purples and pinks that I would be getting out to play with just to do. So I have color stories that are a little bit more fun that I wear during that time. So they've just time for them to go. This one's really hard. So I decided it was time to break my collecting habit with Natasha Denona, meaning I hadn't reached for these two. This is the mini nude, which I had gotten a lot of love, and the mini sunset. I have the full-size sunset, and I just got a new 5-pan that I like a little bit more. So I'm no longer collecting just to collect. If I haven't used it in a year, it's going to go. So these are two that I just don't reach for because I have replaced. So they are going to go to someone that's going to love them. And then just a few more things here. This is a cute little Lorac palette, but it's almost just like too small. I have a bigger one, so that's going to go. Collab was a brand that some influencers had put together, and I really loved this when I got it. It was so easy to use, but I have replaced it over and over in my collection with those colors. So That's time for that to go. And then this was a really pretty pink palette that I held onto for a while, but I really wasn't super impressed with Smashbox quality, so I'm ready to let that one go. Morphe is a brand that I have slowly completely decluttered out of my collection, and I refuse to buy anything further. I don't like who they've supported. This one I did. This one I bought recently because I love Manny MUA. But I think this was more of he had a deal with them. He had to kind of finish because he is a makeup brand where his quality is by and far better than this. These are okay highlighters. This shade right here in Scorpio, and these like Aries, Cancer, Leo, Scorpio, the shimmer shades in here were stunning. The mattes were just okay. So I'm going to let that go because I don't need it. This was a set I got in BoxyCharm that I never opened. This is another Ofra I think I got in a BoxyCharm, and it's really pretty, and it comes with a highlighter, but I have so much that I decided since I haven't used it, I'm letting it go. So those are the palettes. I also filled, and like I said, whoever gets this is going to be pretty happy, I'm hoping, but I just filled this container with some highlighters, some liquid lipstick, some brushes, just to declutter a little bit. Most of the other products I need, like this Pillow Talk highlighter, one of my favorites, I have this in 2 different forms because this is some of the Samantha March collab, so I decided I didn't need 3. And then just like these blushes, these are like my favorite blushes. I have 2 of each of these. I don't need 2, so they're gonna go. And like I said, just some liquid lips and some highlighters and just other things like that. So I'm not gonna go through that too quickly or too thoroughly, sorry. I'm speed talking here and obviously I'm not very good at it. But that is like kind of how I did this declutter. I just went through each drawer and I pulled the items that either I was completely done with, I have too many of, and then I made another bucket called the final tour. So that bucket I'm going to bring to another video, and it's just some palettes, some lipsticks, some face products that I need to give love to and then let go of. So the last thing I'm going to share is a whole bag of liquid lips, and I mean it is full. And I have so many name brands in here that you probably have heard of, like Huda Beauty liquid lipsticks. These were just really dry for me. These NARS Power Pigment ones, these were beautiful on and they stayed, but I don't really wear them anymore. I have a lot of ColourPop in here. ColourPop's just a brand that I use to collect everything, and I'm slowly realizing that it's just not my favorite. And I guess I don't want to go through everything, but I even had the Gwen Stefani Urban Decay Rocksteady lipstick. That's an oldie. So this is nice. This makes me feel so good. Like I'm going into spring with a collection that's much more curated to what I actually use now. And so I think that even though it's really hard to let go of some of our stuff, it's really important to look at it in terms of, is it getting in the way of you using the stuff that you want to use more of? Like, is it just giving you a clutter feel, or is it giving you a feeling of joy? Because honestly, for me, I have no skill, but makeup brings me joy. So if you're watching to this point, 18 minutes in, let me know down below how you feel about it. Like if your collection's big or small. Mine's very big. I feel like I have too much still, but I do this often enough that I feel like I've got a really good handle on what I have. I rarely repurchase products that I already had or hadn't had because I've tried them before and I kind of have a memory of what I liked or what I didn't like. And then another thing I'm decluttering is some nail polishes. I had tried Zoeva and I don't even know if they're still around, but these were not my favorite. The colors looked different online. I had a lot of Ulta Beauty and these were great and I love the colors and I love the price, but like 1 or 2 days they chipped. The same with these like L'Oreal, 1 or 2 days and they were chipping off. And then this one makes me sad, but I have to go through these a little bit more thoroughly. I almost had like every kale polish that there ever was. This is in South Peach. This is one I'm gonna let go because when I just tried it on, like Sunday I was messing with these before I painted my nails. The consistency's changing. So I'm gonna go through and just keep a few and they're gonna kind of do the same thing, a final tour. But these formulas are very thin and this is a formula that I really like because it is a little bit thicker. It's almost just like a little bit easier to work with. And I just love this wand. So did you guys ever like kale polish? They're lights lacquer now and I haven't purchased because I just have so much. So I'm like, you don't need it. And I'm realizing that they kind of almost dupe themselves in colors. Once they've kind of gone through the color wheel a little bit, it's like they already have it. So they just name it something different. And I'm noticing that in my own collection. So I'm going to really do a better job of decluttering that. But for the most part, this is my round 1 declutter. Let me know if you like this video or if you'd like me to do it differently. If you do watch my makeup content, I appreciate you. I know a lot more of you are here for my Bath & Body Works stuff, but they haven't been having good sales lately. So I was kind of looking into my own collection lately just because I don't buy it at full price. I don't know if y'all do, but I do not. But that's going to do it for this video. Let me know down below if I'm decluttering some of your favorites, or, you know, like I said, I would love to know if you have a small collection, a big collection, anything like that. But this one's a long one. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys in a video very soon. Bye.